Hi, everybody. This story is sponsored by a contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. We had a tumultuous 6 years of living together since January 1989. A couple abortions because I knew our relationship, nor myself, was ready for another child. We weren't married, and I got pregnant. The first ultimatum was that we grow up and face our responsibilities, and if we didn't have the baby and marry, then we didn't need to stay together. In November of the very next year, when our daughter was 10 months old, we celebrated our birthday together. My 25th, I was given the second ultimatum. After months of normal dirty talk in the bedroom, yeah, you're a whore. Yeah, a big whore. You've had a lot of dicks. Yeah, a lot of dicks. Whatever. I found a letter in his sock drawer to a couple he responded to from an ad back in a magazine. In the back of a magazine about us meeting to have sex, and said that I was bi-curious. I was livid. Said he didn't love me if he wanted to see me with another person or people. And on our joint birthday dinner, he told me I needed to find someone before he got back from his meeting with his sister-in-law real quick. It was about an hour-long trip there and back, and he was leaving me at the hotel to find anyone. Looking back now, I see how dangerous that was. It was a seedy hotel with a porn shop at the end of it. Now I know it was a prostitute. Now I know it was a prostitute crack hotel, but back then I didn't. And I had on a rabbit black fur length coat. What a young dumb fool I was, and I did it. I found someone, and I found myself in a hot tub between them, drunk as I could get, with a dick in each hand on my 25th birthday, puking right after the experience. Then within the year, a porno theater where I had to give him oral sex while bending over with my ass in the face of the guy he intentionally sat right behind. So that the guy would know he could have it. He came around and had sex with me without a word. It was known, of course, and then a line started to form, scaring and scarring the shit out of me, and I told him how dangerous that was, to which he replied, I wouldn't let anything happen to you. Did he have a gun? No. And he said to a line of guys, hey, show's over. Wow, thanks. Then online profiles on swinger sites that only my pictures were on, and only my face shots, to which he gave access to anyone he chose to do so. He made all these dates unknowingly to myself, most of which did not come to fruition. You know why? Because I sabotaged all of it, he says, and after doing this shit 16 or 17 times with 20 plus people, because yes, his demands became more degrading as I had to have sex with two at a time and couples. I did that twice for each of those scenarios. 2 men twice and a couple twice. After about 8 years of me begging and pleading and crying for him to stop and saying to him that he couldn't love me, I decided it was for a new approach. So I tried my best to understand and get into it, but I still got the same horrible feeling, and the life we lived outside the bedroom started to becoming as degrading as inside the bedroom. When my daughter was 4, I was 28. I broke my hand at the job and had 3 surgeries within a year, easily becoming dependent on painkillers. And with this reality, that I was becoming and became a functioning addict within a couple of years. But I spent my 39th birthday in rehab and was addicted for about 10, being non-functioning addict and for 4, and falling off the wagon for about 10 months after rehab. After August 2009, I've been sober since that date, and sometimes I don't know how. With the addiction and me not pleasing him enough with the swinging, you can imagine the degrading started severely outside the bedroom as well, as in his words, he had to police me. He had to put me down and let me know how little I was worth. I think a lot of it was a childish ploy to get what he wanted, to give me a sense of owing him, and it totally worked. But it totally ruined my sex life for the last 10 years of this marriage, and 99.9% of the times we have sex swinging is mentioned. Either about the time we did it or the future of doing it, usually the upcoming weekend, during all this, and us having regular sex at least twice a week, and a lot of the time 3 times a week. He moved for his job, and I had to stay in SA for our daughter to graduate. I believe that's San Antonio. And he was there for a few months before we could move. And then in the summer of 2012, we moved and went to Bourbon Street to celebrate for a weekend 1 month before our 19th wedding anniversary. And of course, he wanted nasty, freaky sex of some kind. And we were really drinking hard, which I rarely do because I know better for myself. And we started fighting up and down Bourbon until I rounded a corner and saw him and a bigger girl pinned up against the car kissing her. I walked up as he was getting in, and I said, "Don't leave or it's over." After being in the middle of the street and having to get my daughter to drive me home because the kids and the grandbabies were at another hotel. He came home that day and didn't apologize or beg for forgiveness. No, he told me he had been with 7 or 8 prostitutes in the last year because he had, after all, warned me. Well, I stayed, and it was the last worst decision I made. Also, he got rolled for almost $3,000 that night after he put his pin in front of the whores, and they stole his card. But I didn't leave, and I couldn't believe that the swinging shit continued. This was June 29th, 2012, and these 3.5 years before he left me in October were worse than any others. He kept up the swinging BS, kept hiring prostitutes, and kept fucking me 2 to 3 times a week. All the while putting me down all the time, screaming at me at the top of his lungs and making threats, and turning my phone off 8 times before the final last time in October, and taking the credit cards and checks and keys, and one time even the modem. Every time he gets mad at me, whether I do anything wrong or not, me not saying a word, no is wrong to him, and him asking me for anything is wrong. So we were stuck, and I don't have sex for anyone, especially someone who's inflicted this much pain, sexually and emotionally. Come on. So I got a sneak peek at the phone bill after he turned my phone off one of the times, and I Googled a lot of the numbers and found several prostitute ads that came up for the numbers. And I realized he was still doing it, and this was in October of 2013, a year and a half after Bourbon Street. In November, I printed out the past 18 months bill and went through pages and pages and thousands of numbers until I stopped. Started counting the ones that I had confirmed were pros, and what I found was in the 10 months that I went through, and after this, I couldn't stomach to go through the other 8 I had printed. He had made 413 phone calls to 44 different prostitutes, and based on the amount of time they talked, if they texted back and forth as well, and how he didn't use his phone for a couple hours that day. And the first call he made after that period was to his voicemail or to one of his brothers. Seemed like he hired 27 of them in that 10-month period, from what I gathered based on those, to me, obvious facts. Now, for the past 2 years after the phone bill, he has only blamed me for his prostitutes, although I can't seem to find a correlation between me not wanting to fuck strange men to the prostitutes fulfilling that every fantasy for him. No matter how hard I try, but everything he does, the violence, the screaming, the cursing, the put-downs, the name-calling, the prostitutes, to not losing weight after he paid $13,000 for the gastric sleeve, it's all my fault. So yes, I'm tired. Yes. I feel like I'm the one who's tried by staying and trying to swing, and now I will never swing again. And he feels he's the one who's tried. I for whatever for who's tried. I for what reasons? I am not sure, but he feels that I haven't because I sabotaged the swinging. Because that's all he cares about. That's all these swingers care about is swinging. This is Charlene could tell you story after story like this. I'm not saying that all the women aren't in that all the women aren't in are against it, because they're not. There's plenty of women who are into it. But the ones who aren't, you can see this used to happen at her club all the time, because you are nothing more. Your vagina is nothing more than property. All he cares about, all the swinger male, the narcissistic swinger male cares about is your vagina, and that vagina is nothing more than property. You are collateral to fuck other couples, to fuck other men. That's all you are to him is collateral. Some kind of sexual Bitcoin. The only thing our entire relationship has been based on for 21 years, although he says it's not about the swinging, it's about my attitude. We are in an impasse, and I can't be a wife who worries about her husband going to work every day, and I refuse to be that. So what now? For me, this past 21 years has been the hardest kind of work a woman can do, giving her mind, body, and soul to another to be abused. I even tried to stay the last couple of years for our 14-year-old so that we could raise him together, at least until he graduated. And then Brian left me, and I was glad of it. Not because, woohoo, I'm free, but because, thank God, I have no fear of a phone call or him walking in the door, expecting what he expects. And I will not give up this feeling. As the saying goes, for love or money, ever. There are so many other swinging stories that have damaged my psyche, like just showing up at a hotel and picking two guys standing outside and fucking them within the hour, as one almost bit off the nipple of the breast, and I still have problems with today. After that night, or the glory hole at the porn theater, where all the gay for the night men were holed up in the back there, where all the glory holes often are, I'm sure. Was the dick I sucked just pulled out of another man's ass? Probably. But whether it was or not, the dried cum-stained walls that my face was pressed against as I was instructed or even allowed to suck the nasty dick in the hole was enough to traumatize me in a way I can't seem to forget. Or the old guy from the porn theater who already jerked off so many times that even the asshole of a young woman couldn't make him orgasm because he had sex with me for it felt like hours. And yes, it was anal, and I had tears in my eyes as Brian watched them well up because I was giving oral sex at the same time. And finally, I guess he let me stop. But hey, I was on a lot of pills that night probably. God forgive my monstrous ways. What the fuck? Brian got us illicit drugs a lot of the times after he knew I was an addict, but he knew that I would help his plight. A coke whore, a meth head, whatever he wanted me to be. I wasn't enough, and now, quite frankly, I don't want to be anything but myself, and I am positive that I won't be enough for Brian. But I have to keep in mind, what I have to keep in mind is that it is enough for me. Honestly, again, it's hard to have hope of getting over things I can never forget. And the fact that Brian says he can do without the swinging now, honestly, is so upsetting because I begged for years and now he can be okay. But the tears and begging he laughed at me for were never heard. And I was just a saboteur. That is bullshit. He will never give that up. He will never give it up. He's telling you what you want to hear. He will never give it up. I wrote this letter to a counselor and he begged me to go to the end of February. After he had left me in October, I filed for divorce in November. and he was sure he was losing control, so now he wanted therapy, something he laughed at me for suggesting so many times before. And I love that we were kicked out of therapy on our fourth session because she knew. She can't say, but I know she knew. There's no way with this guy. She said we didn't respect each other enough to communicate, and that we would be better served with one-on-one counseling. And I also needed an abuse counselor as well. Guess you know how that ended. So now I'm still in Texas, where I've been for 4 years as my son flourishes here, winning a couple academic awards and Athlete of the Year in his 8th grade graduation ceremonies. Soon-to-be ex is on his next job in Savannah, absolutely hooked on dating sites, and we haven't had the first day of court, mediation, or anything. He wrote me a $200 check since October, until last month, when I'm sure it was the urging of his attorney. He gave me a $2,500 check, but this week he took my name off the 2 credit cards I've been forced to use to live off of. He can't do that. Call your lawyer. He can't do that. He also, after he was served and said it's in the papers, do not move any money or close our accounts or sell things or turn off utilities, has done all of those things. So when we have court or temporary orders only on September 1st, I can only dream that he will take that outcome as a loss, as he sees things only as wins and losses. My daughter, who visited, and my son, who just visited, both said he's constantly on the dating apps, and they both had to say something to him. All I can say is thank goodness isn't me. He's going on swinger sites in front of the children. That's something the judge should know about. Don't know if you can read all this powerfully worded email. Haha, so edit it if you please. If you do use it, audio will follow, and a lot of it, so pick and choose that as well. Thanks, Trina. I heard I can't use the audio. It's inaudible. I can't even make out what's being said, and it's not going to be picked up. So you can hear this guy kind of screaming at her, yelling at her. You know, I've heard a bunch of them, but they're really, really inaudible. So, and I don't need them because I know this guy. Charlene knows who this guy is. You know, Charlene ran a swingers site, a swingers club. And it's a disgusting place, and it's a disgusting type of disgusting people in there. She said some of them were decent people. You know, some of them were decent, but guys like your husband see you. They don't even see you. They see your orifices. They see your fucking vagina, okay, and your ass and your tits, okay, as nothing more than bartering tools. They see you nothing more as bartering tools. That's all you are to him, is an ends to a means to get what he wants. Because he probably doesn't want to have to be paying that many fucking prostitutes. I'm sure you've been checked for STDs and all that, and if you haven't, please make sure you are. Because syphilis, if you pick that up and it's not diagnosed, it will drive you crazy. I think that's what's going on with Hillary Clinton. Syphilis. You have to understand therapy won't work with this guy. Nothing will work with this guy because his entire life is about sex sites and swinging. And you were never anything more than collateral to be bartered. That's it. That's it. And I'm not even saying all swingers are narcissists, because I've done other videos on it, and I know I have a lot of you who are, and that's not what I'm saying, okay? Because I haven't heard any stories. Like, I've heard some with it, but the people who are coming to me say, like, you know, and it's usually women, no, we're into it, but I understand the type of person you're talking about, yada, yada. It's not about that, so don't re-email me again about it. So, I mean, I understand what you guys are saying. You're grown adults. Do what you want to do. If you're both consenting, whatever. Okay? It's a free country. Whatever. This shit is wrong. This shit is manipulative. And this shit is prevalent within that whole culture. You need to understand, Trina, you were never more than, and I'm going to use his words, okay, because you were never more than your pussy, your asshole, and your tits to him. And your mouth. Not talking, blowing some. That's it. That's it. A woman comes down to 4 things to the narcissistic swinger male, and none of them are good. Because all those things are just bartering tools for him to get what he wants. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I mean, it was a pretty brutal one. I know how hard it is to put yourself out there. I wasn't sure at the beginning if you wanted to be anonymous or not, but you obviously don't. So talk to your lawyer, stay away, do what you got to do. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a narcissist you'd like to expose, or a topic you'd like me to cover, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email links in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.